In this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested video on how to cut this simple princess dart bustier pattern for a beginner. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So to start, here is my pattern, and I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurement, which includes my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, and shoulder to waistline. So next, I'll go ahead and mark my shoulder divided by 2. And from that point, I will come down by 1 inch to mark my shoulder slope. From my shoulder slope, I'll place my ruler and I'll connect, drawing a slanted line to the shoulder. Next, you want to find your chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5. I made a mark on that point, and I'll go ahead to rule out a straight line. And I'll go ahead to place and reconnect the line to the end. Now, what you have on your shoulder, you're going to mark it on that chest line. Place your ruler and draw out a straight line. After drawing that out, go ahead to divide this into 2 and mark. Now, come out by ½ inch from this point. Go down to the chest line. Mark your bust circumference divided by 4. Now, you want to connect these 3 points from the upper part of your shoulder to the ½ inch at your armhole and to your chest line, creating your armhole curve for this pattern. After you're done marking this, I'm going to go ahead to use my marker to outline my pattern. So next, I will go ahead and mark a basic neckline of 3 inches by 3 inches. Here's my curve drew, and I'll go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting, I'll go ahead and use my marker to outline. The next step you want to take is to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches, divided by 2, I have 3.5. Now, I'll go ahead to draw out a straight line on that point. After I'm done marking, I'll go ahead to mark my dart. So I'll be marking ½ inch on this side and 1.5 on the other side. If you're a plus size or a bit busty, use 1 inch here and 2 inches on the other side. You can as well go ahead to use your normal dart intake of sharing what you have equally on both sides. So before you mark out, make sure you have about ½ inch on top. Go ahead to connect to your under bust. Repeat the same thing to the other side. Now I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline or blend out my pattern. So this is what I have after I'm done marking. So next, you want to divide your armhole into 2 by folding your tape and mark. Now connect from that point all the way to your bust point. After marking that, you want to contour this side, and you want to go ahead and mark a dart intake of ½ inch on both sides. Go ahead to connect this to your original dart line, and you're going to blend out. Now you'll be outlining the ½ inch dart intake you marked out. Now, when you're joining your princess dart, you notice that the other side becomes shorter and might not meet up. So that ½ inch dart intake on both sides, which is 1 inch, I'll go ahead and replace it at the armhole part. Now mark your bust circumference divided by 4. Measure that dart intake and replace. Add your sewing allowance. Going down to the under bust part of your pattern, mark your under bust circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace, and add your sewing allowance. Mark your waist circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace, and add your sewing allowance. So for this pattern, you can also use a bust dart. But because this is a beginner-friendly pattern, we are just going to make use of our basic bodice pattern. Now, I'll outline this, and my pattern is ready, and I'll go ahead to cut out. Next, I'll go ahead and I will cut out my pattern. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, leave your comment at the comment section. And if you have any question, go ahead also to leave it at the comment section. After the front, we'll move over to the back part of this pattern, and here I've gone ahead to mark out all the basic measurements just like we did. The only difference is that I have a zipper in front of my pattern, and all my measurements will start immediately after the zipper. So I'm going to mark my shoulder, come down by 1 inch just like we did, and if you notice, my measurement started after the zipper line, go ahead to mark my chest line, which is also your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, just like we marked for the front part. Now I'll go ahead to extend this and also mark back my shoulder. So if you're making a princess dart with a sleeve, at the shoulder part of your dress, you're going to add ½ inch to it, making my shoulder 7.5. So this is a basic princess dart pattern, so there's no sleeve on the dress. So now I'll go ahead to also mark out my armhole, just the same way I marked my armhole at the front part of my pattern, by going in by ½ inch at the midpoint and connecting it to my bust circumference and to the upper part of my shoulder. So next, you want to go ahead to mark out your basic neckline. So I'll go ahead and mark a basic neckline of 3 by 1.5 inches for the back and extend it. After marking that, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline and connect it all the way up. After I'm done marking this, you're going to go ahead to start marking your dart. But before doing that, I'll go ahead to mark out my pattern. And also for this pattern, if we're using a bust dart, the back pattern will be a bit shorter. So now I'll go in and mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I'll mark this all the way from the upper part to the lower part. Go ahead to connect this down. Next, I'll be marking a dart intake of ½ inch on both sides of the waistline of my pattern. Come down by 1 inch from the bust, and I'll go ahead to connect this at both sides. So after I'm done connecting this, I'm going to go ahead to use my marker and I'll outline. The next step you want to take is to go ahead to mark your bust circumference divided by 4, add your sewing allowance, mark your under bust circumference divided by 4. You're going to go ahead to measure the dart intake you have here and replace, and then add your sewing allowance. Mark your waist circumference divided by 4, measure this dart intake, replace, and add your sewing allowance. The next step is to go ahead to connect your pattern, and after you're done connecting, go ahead to use your marker to outline this to make it more visible. So after I'm done marking this out, to create that princess dart effect at the back of the dress, you're going to divide your armhole into 2, just like we did for the front, and connect. But if you want, you can leave your pattern as a basic pattern. So I will be coming out by ½ inch at the armhole and I will blend it in. This is so that the other side will be meeting, the center will be meeting the side. So I'll go in by ½ inch at the waistline and I'll extend it all the way up. This is to get rid of the bulginess at the back of the dress. So you want to go ahead and replace that measurement you took out at this side. Or if you don't want to replace the measurement, you can leave it. The only difference is that it will reduce the measurement or sewing allowance you have by the side. And when you're shaping your dress, this side might be shorter or smaller than the front part, but it doesn't really have much impact at the side. So I'll just go ahead and cut this out. So with this, we have come to the end of today's tutorial. If you find this video very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. If you have any questions, also go ahead and leave it at the comment section. Thanks.